Fellow patriots, you're about to hear some facts that will scare the daylights out of you. And I promise you, all I offer is the truth. A truth that can save your life and the life of your family. A truth that will set you free. If you choose to ignore this warning, you risk losing everything, including your life. I don't get scared by much. Heck, I've been in close combat. And yet the facts I'm about to expose won't let me sleep. Because they're irrefutable evidence of a crisis unlike any other in history. A catastrophe that will overshadow Katrina, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, the Great Depression, even the Civil War is on the forefront. The crisis will be the knife in the heart of this great nation, and as you'll soon see, it's barreling down on us like a freight train in just 10 months or less. The warning signs of this emergency are everywhere, from the price of gold to the S&P downgrade to chaos in Greece. These events signal that this crisis is about to blow up in our faces, but somehow 95% of Americans still haven't fully woken up. But you will, the moment you understand what I call the financial Hiroshima. I'm Matt Stevens, someone who spent 16 years of my life practicing and teaching survival, and who spent the past 4 years researching the political and economic realities in this country since the financial debacle of 2008. And most importantly for you, a patriot who cares deeply about your future. And I'm here to inform you that the financial Hiroshima is a nuke far more dangerous than anything North Korea is planning. It's aimed at every American across this nation. You won't hear about this ticking time bomb on your nightly news. The president won't dare mention it in his press conferences. In fact, the media does everything in their power to distract you from it. Why? Because of the panic it would cause. But personally, I'd rather see you scared and alive than ignorant and vulnerable, because unless you take some very specific steps, it is virtually guaranteed that you will be left penniless, hungry, and fighting desperately for your life. If you want to avoid that, you need to act right now as time is running out, because this catastrophe, as I'll explain, is mathematically certain to happen in the very near future, whether you believe in it or not. As you can imagine, the information you're about to hear is life and death information for you and your family, which means you need to remove anything that could distract you from it. Turn off your cell phone, close all other tabs, lock the door, and take notes. You'll be needing them. Before we begin, we need to consider a few startling facts happening in the world around us. Fact 1. 26 once bustling American cities are now bankrupt for the first time in history. Fact 2. Warren Buffett, John Paulson, and numerous other billionaires are now dumping U.S. stocks as fast as they can sell them. Fact 3. Germany, Switzerland, and Denmark are in the process of pulling all of their gold out of the United States. Fact 4. Russia, China, and Brazil are moving quickly towards creating a new central bank with one purpose: to replace the dollar. While China and Japan are now boycotting the U.S. dollar for trading purposes, these are financial bombshells that should have the hair on your neck standing up. Why are so many well-informed entities trying to get out of the U.S. economy? It's simple. They know our country's on a collision course, and they're bracing themselves for the impact and trying to avoid the blast. Here's what I mean. Take a good look at what you see in front of you. This is the U.S. debt clock in real time. Here you see our national debt, and here you see our total debt. Can you keep up with the numbers? I didn't think so. Guess what? Neither can your government. What you're actually seeing is your government spending approximately $41,000 they don't have every single second. The U.S. debt, as you can see, is spinning out of control. In fact, we've actually added $12.5 million to the deficit since you started watching this video. 10 years ago, I saw the same clock, and I could actually see the numbers ticking away. Today, the numbers are growing faster than the eye can see, and it's getting faster every day. What do you think will happen when this ticking time bomb of debt reaches the fuse? We'll get to that in a moment. Our government uses several accounting tricks to make this number look smaller, but let's grant them that it is actually 16 trillion. Do you have any idea what that means? If you were alive during the days of Jesus, and you added $1 million of debt every single day, you still wouldn't have $1 trillion. We have 16 of those. Stack $100 bills until you reach 16 trillion, and that stack will weigh more than 100 Chrysler buildings and reach 89 miles high. But here's where this gets worse. This debt just blew by a very dangerous red line. If you look at the total debt here, which includes the debts of all the citizens of the United States and programs like Social Security and Medicare, the debt has actually become impossible to repay. Yes, I said impossible to repay. Meaning, if you taxed every single American citizen and business, including Apple, Microsoft, and Intel, at a rate of 100%, there would still not be enough money to pay it all back. These are dangerous levels that the country cannot sustain for long. The U.S. is a body. This is a cancer. With every tick of the clock, the cancer spreads. Now it has overwhelmed the body. We sit in the waiting room, waiting to hear the news that it's all over. Thomas Jefferson once said that if he could take away one power from the U.S. government, it would be their power to borrow. Now you know why. America, a relatively young nation, which might have some of you asking, how did we get here? How did things get so bad? I'll tell you, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over decades. While most of the public had the wool pulled over their eyes, it all started in one day, the day our country was hijacked. Who did it? A cabal of bankers hungry for power with endless appetite for wealth. Most don't understand that they're not under the control of any government. They create governments. They have saddled numerous third world countries with unpayable debt, forcing millions into famine and disease. And then they set their sights on the real prize, the U.S. economy. They hatched a plan that could rig the entire U.S. economy in their favor, and they succeeded in a single day. It was December 23rd, 1913. You'll notice that's pretty close to Christmas, so most of Congress was already on vacation, which meant only a handful of compromised politicians were there when a new bill went to the vote. And on that day, in the dead of night, the bankers won. They successfully put in place new financial law called the Federal Reserve Act. And from that day on, our money changed. What actually happened that day was the bankers injecting a poison into this country, causing a slow but steady process that guarantees the destruction of our society at some date in the future. My research of confidential documents reveals that that date is now upon us. Their weapon, a new entity they called the Federal Reserve. Maybe you've heard of it. What you don't know is that name is a lie. They aren't federal and they have no reserves. Yet, they issue the money. Before this law was passed, our money was as good as gold. Every dollar had a certain quantity of gold in reserve. You give the bank $1, they give you back $1 of gold. That's called real money with value. From 1913 on, $1 was no longer $1. It became a Federal Reserve note. Take $1 out of your wallet. That's exactly what's written across the top of it. Most don't realize what that means. So listen carefully. A Federal Reserve note is a debt note, a debt to those greedy international corporate bankers. Get this straight. The Federal Reserve is not part of our government, but they strap dynamite to our government, turning it into a debt-creating machine. They did it in Europe too, by the way, so don't think you're exempt. Think about what we just said. The money in your wallet, the money in your bank account, the money in your IRA is all debt. Debt is the only way money is created now. It's created by loaning it to the economy. So $1 to you is a debt to them. Sure, you can use it to purchase goods and services for a while, but as a nation, it all has to be paid back with interest in the future. Best part, they can print billions of new debt money with the push of a keystroke. No U.S. mint needed. And now the entire U.S. government now needs to purchase these debt notes just to survive. But here's where things really get nasty. This debt needs to be paid back with interest. Only thing is, we don't have the interest to pay it back. Why? Because that extra money has not been created yet. So we have to go back to the Federal Reserve, get down on our knees, and beg them to create even more debt notes so we can pay back the old debt. Then those debt notes need to be repaid. And if you know anything about compound interest, you know that this interest will grow fast. This isn't just a vicious cycle. It's a cycle of doom. Fast forward to the Reagan administration, 70 years into this process, the Investigative Grace Commission he launched in 1982. The commission found that 100%, yes, 100% of the income tax we pay is, quote, absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt and by federal government contributions to transfer payments. In other words, all individual income tax revenues are going to pay this interest and debt. This massive Ponzi scheme has lasted for decades, a scandal bigger than any in history, going totally unchecked, totally unpunished, and totally unnoticed. But we're starting to notice because the jig is almost up, and the Ponzi house of cards is about to come crashing down. Why should you care? Because it's forcing them to print like mad, and every time they print a dollar, your dollar loses a bit of power, meaning your dollar buys a little less, meaning you have to pay more for everything you want and need. And we're reaching the point that your money will be as good as toilet paper. Just look at this graph to see how quickly this process is happening. These numbers come from the U.S. Census Bureau. Now you know why movies and a drink don't cost a nickel anymore. Now you know why your paycheck isn't leaving any money at the end of the month. And now you know why a third of the country can't survive without food stamps. And it's getting worse, way worse, because the Fed must now print $400 billion each month just to keep the Ponzi scheme going. Right now they're delaying a total collapse of the dollar for just a few more months, like putting kerosene into the fire to put it out. Because they have no other choice now, they're going for broke. There is no way out. This isn't my prediction. It's just simple math. And the moment the dollar has even come close to collapse, or almost there, every country across the globe will dump the dollar en masse. At that point, the music stops and the party's over, and we all experience in one swift swoop the end of the dollar, which is the same day we'll begin to realize that our money controls everything, from our relationships, to the food we eat, to where we live, and if we live. Allow yourself to imagine what it will be like. Your football or soap is suddenly interrupted with this. You try to click off, but it's on every channel. You begin to realize this isn't a test. A headline, a news anchor, in a shaky voice says, "A sudden collapse of the dollar today occurred at 9:15 a.m. I repeat, the dollar has collapsed." The TV cuts to the president, who tries to calm the fears about the announcement. He fails miserably, as everyone can see the fear written all over his face. After the press conference, he takes no questions. Instead, he's quickly rushed to a bunker underground. You see clips of stockbrokers on the NYSE in shock and in shambles. The markets close in the wake of the news to prevent industrial traders from shorting the entire stock market. Next, they announce that all banks have implemented an emergency shutdown to prevent millions rushing to get anything they have left out of the system. You're told every major utility has now become a potential target for terrorists trying to take advantage of the opportunity. They must be shut down as well. And that's when the TV suddenly turns off. You stand there in silence for a few seconds before the lights go out. You look out the window and see a ripple effect. Your entire neighborhood in one moment goes black. The homes, the street lamps, the traffic lights, everything. The entire grid has been officially shut down. You try to get in your car to get to the grocery store for some supplies, but it's complete gridlock for miles. When you finally get there, the doors are barred shut. You peek inside and see rows of empty shelves. You have some food in your fridge, but you realize it will spoil in days with no power. The dried goods in the pantry aren't enough to last more than a few days. A thought crosses your mind. You might not be the only one in the neighborhood who has this problem. And you're right. You start to hear sounds outside your home. Looters going from store to store and door to door. You lock everything. Then you hear the cops, sirens, and then tanks. You begin to realize that your block has turned into a war zone. Your wife and kids are terrified. They look at you, but you have no answers. A battery-powered transistor radio announces robberies, shootings, murder, and even rapes are going on in every town in America, all simultaneously. Law enforcement is stretched so thinly they can't keep up with the tornado of criminal activity. The National Guard, SATO troops, even Russian soldiers are brought in to try and restore some order. The confrontations with the law are ugly. Rubber bullets fly, then real ones. You stay inside to survive because you don't know what else to do. But after a week, you realize you have a bigger problem. All you have left is a single can of tuna, your last meal. You will be forced to split it 4 ways with your family. Everyone's crying as they eat it, knowing it's the end of the food, unless something changes fast. But things only get worse. Your family begins to become dehydrated, lightheaded, weak. Your children can hardly get out of bed. from the fear and the hunger. You can't even look them in the eye. And unfortunately, this is where most of the stories will end. Is this really possible? Your government seems to think so. You may have heard that the Department of Homeland Security recently purchased 1.7 billion rounds of hollow point bullets. Remember, Homeland Security is there to secure the homeland only, which means these bullets are meant for the American public. Now you know why. You may have heard that massive troop movements, including urban drills, are taking place in every major U.S. city, along with foreign troops now working in conjunction with local police for the first time in history. You may have heard that Obama recently rammed through the National Defense Resources and Preparedness Executive Order, which gives the government total martial law powers over the public in an emergency. Now you know why. But knowing isn't enough. Action is required. I currently have all the resources, skill, and knowledge to survive and thrive in a doomsday scenario, like the one I described above. How about you? If you're not confident with your answer to that question, you should be concerned. On the other hand, let me just reassure you of one thing. You have one huge advantage through all of this. You found me, someone with the background and real-life experience needed for just this type of situation. Someone who has survived in all 4 seasons, faced survival situations, from the California firestorms to a 100-mile hike with no supplies. In short, I know my stuff. And I've been in the trenches, in real life and death situations, more times than I can count. And I'm ready to help. I started warning friends and family to start prepping for the collapse of the dollar. My neighbor Steve took the advice. He proudly invited me to look at what he'd done, and I was shocked. His plan was full of holes. The money he spent was mostly wasted, yet he missed out on critical prepping resources. His prepping would most certainly have him fighting for his life in mere days after the crisis. I immediately asked where he got the advice to do this. He showed me guides that he'd bought online, and instantly I knew what was going on. People trying to make a buck off the impending crisis were putting out products based on zero real-life experience, sharing information that not only won't help you, but could actually get you killed. Misconceptions and misinformation had seeped its way from the pages of Google to every major course on market. I couldn't let things go on like this. I may not be much of a marketer, but when it comes to survival, nobody tops me. I know I was the only one with the knowledge and desire to make this right. So I got to work. I took every trick, tactic, and insider secret I'd picked up, from every type of survival situation I'd ever been in, condensed everything I've learned since I was 16 about survival, from the world's greatest experts to the Indian Navajos. I synthesized it all into one simple step-by-step process anyone could follow. I made sure the plan I'd created included only the information you'll need most. 1, to survive anything and everything that could happen in a crisis. 2, to thrive through it all. I realized this was a plan that will empower anyone at any level of experience to become leaders, not only of their families, but to entire communities. No prior knowledge needed. It all became what I can confidently say is the most effective, comprehensive, and doable system ever released on the topic of survival, which is why many are calling it the Survival Bible, and the only course you'll ever need for the crisis ahead. Word about my system spread like wildfire. People caught wind that something was happening in the U.S., and they knew I had the experience to lead them through it unharmed. And that's how a successful survival camp in California was born. But it became too much to handle in person, and few could afford the fees I had to charge to cover my costs. So I created something just as good that I can get into your hands within hours, teaching you in the same simple yet stunningly powerful methods we use at my live workshop from the comfort of your own home. I call it the Patriot Survival Guide. I should tell you, the Patriot Survival Plan isn't an internet download like the others that will collect digital dust. This is something you will receive, to have, to hide, and barter with when the crisis hits, for food, gold, or labor. The moment I get this course in your hands, you will have every advantage I do. Nothing is left out. It will ensure you never reach a life and death situation, but will also show you exactly what to do if you do. And you can go through this course with total confidence. Everything in it has been field tested by someone who's actually done it, which I can't say for any other resource out there. Here's the scoop on the product. It's broken down into 5 modules, which are drawn from 5 separate workshops. Students pay $1,000 to receive training on each module. You will receive all 5 modules in one single product for one single fee. Here's a tiny taste of what's included: understanding the mechanics of urban warfare and the surefire 3-step system you can use to make sure you are untouched by it. I will also include a trick I learned from journalists that allows you to walk calmly through dangerous riots completely unharmed. Why a bunker built to keep you safe can become a death trap, and the alternative that's infinitely better. The 5 easy ways to get yourself shot by the police in a crisis, even if you're completely innocent. And simple advice that always keeps you out of the line of fire. How your gun can become your worst enemy, along with a little-known secret to avoid this common mistake. Know this: 95% of people die in the first 3 days of a crisis for only one reason. I'll tell you what it is, and how to ensure you're guaranteed to be safe from the silent killer. Psychogenic shock, the very real and totally debilitating bodily reaction that often happens in a crisis. If you get it, you're useless. I'll show you how to get out of it with a weird but effective tactic that you can actually start using today to face any fear you face in life. Survival always comes down to your mindset, which is why Module 4 spends a great deal of time showing you exactly how to mold your mind, just like a Navy SEAL. It only takes days to do it. Tactics borrowed from the U.S. military for defending your home for anything and everything going on outside. Intruders will be running away from your home like scared little girls once you implement the solution at the end of Module 1. I'll reveal the very first thing you must do in a survival situation. This will surprise you. Your family will need twice as many nutrients under the stress of a crisis, but you can't stockpile fruits and vegetables. The solution is in Module 1, including the 3 superfoods that can keep you alive and strong. Nobody is talking about this, and it's a crime. How to build your very own food factory, which basically runs itself, so you can calmly and deliciously feed your family for years, even when the grocery is empty. The truth about your food stockpiles, how you can lose it all in an instant with a careless mistake that most people make, and a new method that literally bulletproofs your stored food. Think you can't afford a stockpile? I'll show you how just $5 can send you well on your way to total food security. In a real crisis, your taps won't work, and if you go thirsty, you might as well be dead, which is why I'll show you how to access an evergreen and totally unlimited supply of purified H2O that can quench the thirst of everyone you care about for years to come. The military has been known to confiscate guns, gold, and even food in a crisis. I'll show you 5 techniques that will keep the military out of your hair and all your hard prepping safe and sound no matter what. 39 ways duct tape can save your life. This will amaze you. Ladies, this is for you. One military tactic even a slender woman can use to take out a 250-pound thug in seconds. Use with caution. This one can kill. Outdoor survival is an option you should have on the table. I'll show you how to make nature your friend with the methods of the Navajos. Find out how you can get medicine, food, and actually live in comfort even if you've never camped in your life. A way to communicate with separated family members and even get the news, even when the grid is down for a week. There is so much more, I can't begin to cover it all now. I made a pledge to myself to prepare you for absolutely anything, which is why I've also included how to stay safe and sound in the face of attempted rape, armed home invaders, unarmed home invaders, terrorism, confrontations with police, confrontations with the military, floods, hungry neighbors, hurricanes, chemical warfare, and even nuclear war. Terrorism, sure to happen when the government is weak, and more. I'm also including a bonus that's worth $97 on its own, but you'll get it free with the Patriot Survival Plan. It's called the Patriot's Family Plan. Children, wives, and grandparents. They can complicate situations unnecessarily. I will show you how to turn them into part of the solution, not the problem. And even if you have family members who are disabled or in any way unable to help themselves, I'll do everything I can to ensure their story has a happy, healthy, and safe ending. This next product is a $67 value, and if you're getting the Patriot Survival Plan early, you'll get this and the Patriot Family Plan free. Check below the order button to see if the free bonus deal still applies. This next bonus is called Bartering for Patriots. A man once bartered his way from a paperclip to a house. Naturally, this kind of skill could save your life in a crisis. I'll show you how he did it and how you can turn seemingly insignificant items into a wealth of survival tools and supplies and labor. You can use this tactic today to start slashing your monthly expenses like crazy. Plus, I'm going to give you maybe the best bonus of all, me. I'm going to be available to you via email for a full year. I pledge to respond to all customers' questions within 24 hours. And now it's time to ask yourself, what's all this really worth to you? I know that's a difficult question to answer. How do you put a price on the peace of mind that being completely prepared brings? What would you give to proudly feed your child when he's begging you for help with a tear in his eye? What's it worth to have the skills to protect your wife from an attempted rape? Nobody can put a price on that. All I can do is tell you what others have paid for the very same information. When I teach a workshop, I teach just one of these modules and I charge $1,000 for it. Those who wish to attend all 5 days will spend $5,000. Here, you're getting every method I have, my entire survival system. So the value here is $5,000. That's the real price, but I won't charge you that. Not because it isn't worth it, but because you don't have enough time to save up that kind of money. I showed the course to a few businessmen I know. They took one look and said even if I wanted to be generous, it shouldn't go for less than $2,500. But I wanted to do better still, so I went to $1,000. I even considered $500, a steal any way you slice it. I thought deeply about those with tight budgets who really need this info. And I settled on a ridiculously low $197. But hold on, I've heard it's traditional to give away a few copies. I like that idea. So I decided during launch week, I'll give away a few copies for just $37 to cover our support team and production costs. This won't last. It's just for the first few copies, so check below for the order button to see if any copies are still available. Of course, when launch pricing is over, it rockets back to the regular pricing of $197. Now, if you have any doubts about this investment, let's erase those right now. And I know I can do that with a double-decker 100% money-back guarantee on your investment, the best guarantee in the business. Here it is. If you just didn't like it for any old reason at all, even if it's just the sound of my voice, the colors we use, or our camera work, anything at all, I'll send every penny back. No explanations necessary. Just check a few simple clicks and the refund is yours. So all the risk is off your shoulders and onto mine. Am I worried about doing this? Not in the slightest, because I know refunds will be the last thing on your mind once you get started. And if purchasing online concerns you, please know that your information is safeguarded by the same encrypted payment system used by the trusted corporations in the world. So you're exactly as secure as your purchases from Amazon or Bank of America. And now that we've removed every obstacle between you and this course, you're faced with a choice. You are at what is quite possibly the most important crossroad of your life. Time is running out. Fast. You know that now. The way I see it, you've got only two options. Option number one, you can ignore the evidence I presented, dismiss it all, and hope for the best. But before you go this route, I recommend you ask yourself, if there's even a slight chance that this collapse will unfold as I predicted, could you ever live with yourself if you could have prepared yourself and didn't? Could you look your family in the eye, knowing that the solution to their fears was right in front of you, but you didn't grab it over $37? Right now, I can help you. Once the collapse happens and the looters are beating down your door, it will be too late, which means doing nothing is actually the riskiest move of all. And then there's door number two. You can seize this moment while this is fresh on your mind. Move powerfully to secure your entire family's future and walk with your head held high, knowing you've given them every advantage possible and a plan that has absolutely no holes. End the fear of what's to come and embrace the future. Your life will change the moment you have the power this course brings. You'll realize that the moment you get started. You know your purchase is guaranteed if you're not happy for any reason, so your success with this course is guaranteed. To secure your copy of the Patriot Survival Plan and achieve peace of mind and total protection, simply hit the button below. Your course will be prepared for shipment instantly. Hit the button below. Do it now. Your family will thank you later. And in case you're not aware, let me remind you what others have had to face in an economic collapse. Here's what one Russian had to say about the famine of 1917, translated into English from the original Russian. When people are starving, the rules go out the window. When you're desperate and you're hungry, suddenly you can justify anything, and so can your neighbors. I can still remember men who haven't hurt a fly, forced to violently steal from neighbors to save the family. Those who didn't steal wound up drinking water out of the toilet tank, eating grass and bugs, even bark. Some poisoned neighbors' pets for food. Families were torn apart. The horror of seeing a husband offering his wife $70 for the day. Things no human being should ever have to see. Folks, before that happened, He lived a life much like the life you do now. He wasn't expecting that crisis, but it happened. That's just one story out of hundreds. The financial Hiroshima is about to blow. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We know that now. The only thing we don't know is how you will come out of it. I believe that will be decided right here on this page. I can't do this for you. I can only show you how to do this for yourself. And it's simple, because your purchase is backed by our 100% money-back guarantee for any reason at all. Hit the button now. Secure your order. Secure your future. And I'll see you on the very next page with a very important announcement.